All right, we're going to apply Vivesa structure to the links. And we have the layer called Vivesa structure. We must click it and make it active. If we're going to work on that layer, it has to be selected. All right, I'm hoping everyone has it installed. Go to your filter menu. Come down to the bottom where you see the Nick collection. Move your mouse over all the way to the bottom where you see Vivesa 2. Let me leave that open just a minute so you can see it. Click Vivesa 2, and it will launch Vivesa within the program that you're using. Just to remind you that if you didn't have with you any Adobe software, you could open Vivesa as a freestanding application and file open your images into Vivesa and do the work. The advantage here is that we come from our work in Adobe, we go into Vivesa, and we go back into Adobe, and then we can finish working on it. So it's useful to be inside. Okay. Some of you have already worked with this. There are two ways that we work within Vivesa. We either work globally. Can you see the word global? That means that whatever I apply is applied over the entire image, or we can add control points. For today, we're going to globally add structure because when we added sharpness, we added it globally to the whole image. So let's make it comparable. Come down in this menu to the word structure and take your middle point and point it to the right and notice the changes that occur. And you can move this back and forth. Get rid of it. What happens if you lower structure? It gets blurred. Can you see that?
What is structure?
Structure is looking for midtones and making the edges of the darks and lights within the midtone harsher. So the black and the dark and the light edges become harsher. So they're more obvious. It's a way of, I don't like to use sharpen because sharpen has certain meanings. But it adds edge control, but it goes to the midtones of an image. So why does it work well on links? The links is full of midtones, and they're ready to be worked on. So if you take structure away, you're going to blur the image. Okay? If you add structure, the midtones of that image are going to have contrast added to them. And so you try to use some common sense, and I'm just adding it somewhere to the right in the 40s. And then I want to see, what did I do? And in Vivesa, up at the top of the window, you have a preview check. That shows you what you've done. If you unclick it, it goes back to its original form. And then you can bring it back.
Where's that preview?
Up at the top of the window, in this black bar, it says preview.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm glad for your questions because it's easy to fix it at the moment and not after we're past it. So notice what you did. It made a considerable difference in that image. Now, it may have made too much difference, in which case you might lower the structure. You can play with it. I want you to know that Vivesa provides another nice aspect. Even when you've applied it globally to the whole image, you can mask away part of the effect by telling Vivesa that you want to add a mask to this. You want to get rid of it. Let's say, I like what it did to the links and kind of to the foreground, but maybe I don't like what it did. Maybe I'd rather keep this background blurred. So I really don't like the structure there. So I have two choices when I finish working. One is OK, which simply applies it globally to the whole image and goes back to your Adobe software. Brush does the same thing, except it adds a mask to it. Now, for those of you, how many have been using masks? You can use OK and add your own mask, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, it's even easier to add your own mask. But if you don't know what masking is and you want to add a mask, let's just work with the way Vivesa presents it. So instead of OK, accept it with the word brush. Now it's going to take that area here. It's going to add what you did to a new layer above it. And it always puts its work on a separate layer. So technically, we could have used the background of this image, right? Because it isn't going to change the background. It's going to create a new layer. So I even didn't need that extra layer. So what did it do? It gave us the approach, but it put a black mask on it. And a black mask says you don't see any of the structure you added. It hides the entire effect. But you got a new little window that popped up here called Selective Tool. When you have a selective tool, you've got to use it before you're done. So it says, if you want to fill it, you will get a white fill, and the entire image will show the effect. If you take erase, you can erase part of this. You can clear it, you can paint on it. Let's click fill. And then you must click apply. And then you can close this window. Do you see why I said it's easier to add your own mask later? I'll show you. Let's delete the mask they gave you. Will you click on the mask? When you click on it, you have a highlight around it. That means the mask is active. Follow me. Is the mask selected? Go up to layer. It's selected if you see a little light color around the mask. Go to layer and come down to layer mask, and guess what? Choose delete. There's probably another way to do it faster. But sometimes when you're learning, it's helpful to see what the meaning is of all those menus above. Layer, layer mask, delete.
Can you just right-click on the?
Did you get an option to right-click and delete?
I didn't do it. But
Well, you might. You might.
Right-click.
Right-clicking often gives you menus that allow you to do that. Now, guess what we have? We have exactly what we would have had if we'd clicked OK in Viveza, all right? And now we all know how to use masks ourselves. And so I want to add a mask, and then I want to hide the work around here where I don't like the result. So how do you add a mask when you're out in Adobe software? Go up to the top of the Layers panel, look for the rectangle that has a clear circle, and it says Add Layer Mask. When I click it, I get a white mask, which means I see all of my work. And if I want to hide part of that work, I use a black brush. Remember, black hides? So if I want to hide the work around the edge here, I'm going to go to my panel and get a brush. I'm going to make sure the foreground color is black and that I have a soft brush. And how much do I want to remove that area from its sharpness? Well, I don't do it all in one brush stroke. So I have it around 50% opacity. That means I'm not painting with black, I'm painting with middle gray. And I won't hide all of the work, I'll hide some of it. If you've never worked with masks, you may feel overwhelmed. Just take a deep breath, don't worry about it. If you stay around, you'll do a lot with masks. So we are on the mask, and we're ready to paint over this area. And when I paint over this area, I hide the structure changes that were up in that upper region, because I really would like that to stay a little bit more, I don't care to have it sharp, I want it to be fading out. Now, when I finish painting and I lift my mouse, look what happened to the mask. Wherever I painted, I started hiding the structure. And if I paint again, I'll hide more. If I paint again, I'll hide even more, and the paint marks will turn black, because I've done it twice with a gray, and after I do it twice, it becomes black. So what it says is, I went and decided I liked the structure, but I didn't like it up here where it was supposed to be blurry. So I hid the structure from the part of the image I didn't want. And how do we turn off a mask to see the result before we masked? You go to your old friend, the Shift key. You hold him down and you click on the mask, and it turns it off. Look at your picture. Notice how sharpness is in the top of the picture around the back of the image. Now, keep your Shift key and click again. Can you see how we softened it? Here's the before the mask, where all the structure is all around up there. Here is after we applied the mask, and you see the delicate softness we brought back up here? Masking is one of the tools that allows you to individualize an image so that you don't turn it over to software and say, do this to it. You say, I kind of like that idea, but I want to personalize how I use that. And the mask allows you to do that. So what do we have to compare? We have 3 things to compare. If your links is up here at the top and it is on a tab like this, and you want to get it free, you grab the tab and bring it down till it floats. And I want to float each one of these images so that I can see them side by side. And in Elements, when this happens, you go down to your photo bin. Can you see it here? And you say, I want to bring back this image. Now I've got them both open. So what do I want to do here? I want us to see the difference between the different ways we worked on this image. So will you highlight the one that has all the layers? I would like us to look at only at the sharpening. So I'm going to turn off these layers and turn back on sharpen. Do you know what I mean by turn on? It means that I'm going to get rid of the cross mark. I'm going to bring the eyeball back. Now this image has been sharpened. And now we're going to turn off the sharpening and bring back Vivesa. And see if you can see the fact that with Vivesa, oh, I got it off. Let's turn it on. Okay. With Vivesa, you've got more effect over the fur of the image because it was mid-tone fur. And again, oh, I'm sorry, you've got to turn off sharpen and turn on Vivesa. Sorry. The eyeballs, if you have both open, the top one is in effect. I wanted to turn off sharpen and look at what Vivesa did to that image. Okay? And of course, is that the Vivesa image? Yes. Okay. Now, let's look at the clarity image. Leave this one at Vivesa. Go over and bring up clarity. And notice there's a lot of similarity between clarity and structure. Very much similar. The one that works the best depends upon your actual image. The advantage in using Vivesa is that you apply it after you've done your basics on your image. That you could add clarity to an image a little bit and still add more structure afterwards with Vivesa. Because Vivesa is applied after your image is open in the editor. So that in this case, the most important thing to see is sharpen doesn't do much to an image that is mostly made up of midtones. Because sharpen needs lots of bright and dark pixels. And when you have an image that is midtones, like this one here, it doesn't have much to work on when you sharpen it. It has more to work on when you apply either clarity or structure. And I think it is fortunate that I recorded this part. We're going to stop it.